So what happens when a pharaoh who is co-regent with his father refuses to, let's say, euthanize his father when his father is clearly ailing and not fully corpus mentis? Well, this is a dream that I had, and it was brought to the forefront of my mind when I was in Egypt. I was in Egypt last year, and there were many statues that I saw in the various museums that brought back dreams I'd had already, and this is one of those. And I think it would be nice to do an episode for each of those faces and tell you about the dream that I had about that person. And some of the faces are dynastic Egyptians, but other faces are of my own people, the original Tantals, or as we know them today, Atlanteans. The first in this series is known in the history books as Sesostris I, or maybe Senusret I. Neither of these names, however, I recognize. They are totally alien to me. This person I knew as Kep. Today he is identified as a Middle Kingdom pharaoh. I knew his parents very well, but that's another story. But as a result, I actually saw him grow up from being a child to a man and later to a ruler. And, that was during my various intermittent visits. I knew him, as I said, as Kip. And I remember he was absolutely devastated when his father was killed. His family was a very loving family, not the sort that you would read about with ancient dynastic families, but some of them really were very close and very loving. When Kip started off as a pharaoh, it was as a joint pharaoh with his father. So it's all happened because as his father aged, he had fairly serious concerns about his kingdom, much in the same way as his father had before him. So that was Kep's grandfather. And so, guided by the ancients, and that was on occasion, including me, and recognizing his own weaknesses, he made Kep his joint ruler. He was still young enough to enjoy having his son by his side doing this role. His father, i.e. Kep's grandfather, had done the same thing, but he'd left it until he was near to death when he actually made his son the joint ruler, and hence Kip's father didn't want to do the same thing. And so he decided that Kip would be his co-regent while he was still young enough to hand over the reins and enjoy doing it alongside his son. And his father's experience of being co-regent with his own father, Kep's grandfather, was very, very brief, and Kep's father decided he wasn't going to do the same thing. He was going to make sure that they had plenty of time together. So he planned out a long co-regency that would enable him to pass on more to his son while lifting his own burden and being a delight to him working alongside his son. Now, Kep was of mixed race. You can see obviously from the statues this, but that meant that Kep seemed to get the best of both of his parents, and he was so much stronger and smarter than his father. And his father knew it and was very, very proud. Kep was dark-skinned like his mother. I mean, not that his father was fair-skinned, but his mother was a lot darker. And you can see the African features in him. When his father started to show signs of dementia, he was expected to do his duty and, let's say, guide his father to Ra, otherwise known as euthanasia. And this was something that he could not and would not do. So while he was away on a campaign, one of the officials ordered the assassination of his father. Kip was devastated and he retaliated against all those involved. From then on, he withdrew. In fact, he was rarely seen by his own people, and he would not, under any circumstances, entertain visits from any travelling dignitaries or even us. We would occasionally visit his wife, but we were unable to set up relations again with Egypt's rulers until after his death. He lived a good life, and his era was known for its prosperity. So he was a good ruler, and he was even very fair when he went out on his campaign to conquer other lands. His aim was to incorporate them into his wider kingdom and for there to be mutual benefits both ways. So he wasn't as brutal as other leaders. And overall, he was a very nice man. So, yeah, that's all I can really tell you about him.